The turning point of the Vietnam War. Benji is back to protect some cougar cubs in Benji the Hunted. And Spaceballs is Mel Brooks' new comedy. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert and the Movies.
Well, everybody's heard about the bird.
He's a startled but happy Marine in Vietnam, this time not in the jungles of the film Platoon, but in the Vietnamese cities of Full Metal Jacket, the latest film directed by Stanley Kubrick, and one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Few films have been more eagerly awaited this summer than Full Metal Jacket, the Vietnam epic by Stanley Kubrick, and few films, I'm afraid, will be more disappointing. This isn't a bad film, but it's not a great film, and in the recent history of movies about Vietnam, Full Metal Jacket is too little and too late. It invites comparison with Platoon, and I'm afraid it suffers by that comparison. The movie tells the story of a group of infantrymen from basic training right through to a fatal firefight with an enemy sniper, and of course there's no way we can see that story and not be reminded of Platoon, which is a stronger and more confident movie. Full Metal Jacket stars Lee Ermey as a tough, profane Marine drill instructor who is so single-minded in his devotion to the Corps that he's actually capable of making a speech like this.
Anybody know who Lee Harvey Oswald was? Private Snowball.
Sir, he shot Kennedy, sir.
That's right. And do you know how far away he was?
Sir, it was pretty far from that book suppository building, sir.
All right, knock it off. 250 feet. He was 250 feet away and shooting at a moving target. Oswald got off 3 rounds with an old Italian bolt-action rifle in only 6 seconds and scored 2 hits, including a headshot. Do any of you people know where these individuals learned how to shoot? Private Joker.
Sir, in the Marines, sir!
In the Marines, outstanding. Those individuals showed what one motivated Marine and his rifle can do.
That haunting face belongs to one of the recruits who's just about to go over the edge. Once they're in Vietnam, one of the other Marines is assigned duty as a journalist and learns the propaganda ropes.
Search and destroy. We have a new directive from MAF on this. In the future, in place of search and destroy, substitute the phrase sweep and clear. Sweep and clear. Got it?
Got it. Very catchy.
That's Matthew Modine as the would-be journalist there. A lot of the second half of the film was given over to a firefight in the city of Hue, where snipers pinned down the Americans while cameramen filmed the story for the evening news.
Hey, you, John Wayne? Is this me? Hey, start the cameras. This is Vietnam, the movie. Yeah, Joker can be John Wayne. I'll be a horse. C.H.E. Rock can be a rock.
I'll be Aunt Margaret. Animal Mother can be a rabid buffalo. I'll be General Custer. We'll be the Indians. Hey, we'll let the Gooks play the Indians.
Some of those scenes, especially the first 2, might make you think that Full Metal Jacket resembles the dark irony of Stanley Kubrick's classic 1963 anti-war film, Dr. Strangelove, but you'd only be about half right. There is irony in this movie and satire and comedy, but there is also way too much routine war footage. The opening scenes in basic training recycle material we've seen before, all except for a brilliant performance by Vincent D'Onofrio as a pudgy weakling who the Marines turn into a psychopath. That was him we saw looking up at the camera in that earlier scene. And there is more recycling at the end of the film, which is devoted to that firefight in the ruins of a burning city, a sequence that was shot on a giant set and looks like it and reminded me more of World War II war movies than of the special war in Vietnam. We expect an original masterpiece from Stanley Kubrick every time out, and this time I'm afraid, see, not a bad movie, but it's not original and it's not a masterpiece.
Oh, I think it's very original and very close to being a masterpiece. I mean, first of all, I think that the stuff that we see, the training sequences, are absolutely startling. Even though this is familiar material, I think that image that we got of that guy is explosive, and I'll never forget it. Second, the fighting here is a different kind of fighting than in Platoon. It's city fighting, and it looks different, and it's a whole different war, and he's playing this film, I think, at a whole nother level. Platoon was about embracing the soldier and giving the soldier credit for this crazy world that he was in. This fighting, to me, is about the mixture of joy in fighting and the absolute fear of being killed, in the sense of when there's this guy called Animal who charges, I was so excited for him. And it's the guy I'm supposed to hate. And then when I see a sniper go on an American and Kubrick has his camera push in, I feel for the first time people getting attacked. I think visually this is the strongest movie I've seen in a long time.
First of all, I didn't think it was that visually exciting except for a few specific shots that were really great. But secondly, let's talk about that very sequence you're talking about. One of the guy's friends is wounded and he's out there under fire, and the other one says, I'm going to go get him, and he runs out blasting with his machine gun to try to rescue him. Then later, the others come up behind, and we can clearly see where the sniper is. Then when you get to that reverse shot and he pushes in, that is a cliche, Gene. I mean, when I saw that push, I was so disappointed in Kubrick. This whole sequence is taken right out of absolutely routine grade B Republic, World War II war movies of guys running out there to try to save their buddy and somebody else shooting at them.
I have never felt a kill in a movie quite like that, ever, in any Vietnam film.
Not in Apocalypse Now, not in The Deer Hunter.
Not like that. Not like that.
Well, then in that case, you're going to love The Late Show, because they have kills like that every night in black and white, starring John Wayne, starting about midnight.
But they don't have movies like this film, Full Metal Jacket.
I disagree, and I disagree particularly about the part that you like.
Well, that's just one scene. I like the whole film. It's full of great scenes. Full Metal Jacket. Later in the show, we'll take a look at 2 Stanley Kubrick films that are true classics on video cassette. But now our next new movie, and it's a big change of subject matter. Spaceballs is the name of Mel Brooks' latest movie parody. This time he kids not the Western, not the Hitchcock film, but the Star Wars movies. And the result is a hit-and-miss affair that has enough good jokes that I'm glad I saw, so that I'm recommending the film slightly. One of the best gags in the film is when the space jockey and the princess and their faithful servants confront a little green wise man named Yogurt, played by Mel Brooks.
But Yogurt, what is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Come, walk this way, take a look. We put the picture's name on everything. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Eventually, Yogurt gives our young hero a magic ring, and that ring becomes part of the battle with evil Dark Helmet, one of the kingpins of the planet Spaceball, a planet trying to steal all the air from the planet of the princess.
May the best man win. Put her there.
The ring! I can't believe you fell for the oldest trick in the book! What a goof! What's with you, man? Come on! You know what? Here, let me give it back to you. Oh! Oh, look at that! You fell for that, too! I can't believe it, man!
So, Lone Star, now you see that evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
By far the funniest bit in the whole film, a gooey bad guy who is not named Jabba the Hutt.
Pizza the Hut!
Well, if it isn't Lone Star and his sidekick, Puke.
That's barf.
Barf, puke, whatever.
Funny is funny, pepperoni sliding down that mountain. Very, very funny. Those are a lot of funny bits, most of them visual, though. The writing in this film is not as good. The spoken gags don't work nearly as well as the visual ones. Still, I did laugh a lot. I wouldn't have wanted to have missed Spaceballs.
Gee, this is a tough one for me to call. There are individual moments in this movie when I laughed out loud
And you didn't want to miss them.
enjoyed myself, and I'm glad I didn't miss them. The movie as a whole, I feel, is first of all not successful, and secondly, way too late. We're celebrating the 10th anniversary of Star Wars, and the whole idea of making a parody of Star Wars has itself been done over and over and over again.
And badly.
And badly, but I mean, in a way, the whole idea of it has been worn out on television and in other movies.
You know,
why didn't Brooks satirize something that was a little bit more up to date?
Well, the
something
only
like
thing,
Aliens, for example, or the Schwarzenegger.
Well, he does throw in a little tribute to Aliens and the Star Trek series in the end of the film. But I think I thought it was a little late for myself. But when I'm laughing, I'm not thinking it's late. I'm laughing, and I think on the judgment of this being a comedy, I laughed. It's good enough. Recommendation.
I laughed. It's not good enough. Thumbs down. But if you happen to go on Gene's recommendation, you'll probably laugh loud a couple times. So how's that for...
well, at least you're wrong now on 2 films. That's all. Let's keep going.
I'm trying to keep my record intact. When we come back, we'll see how you do on Steve Martin, who stars in Roxanne, a love story about a gentleman with a very large, very large nose.
Here it comes! 3D coming at you!
It's really one of the very best and most original movies of the summer. It was written by Steve Martin, who stars in it as a small-town fire chief with a big nose. Like I said before, a very big nose. One day, a beautiful young astronomer named Roxanne comes to live in the small town, and Martin falls in love with her, but he's sure that she's never going to go for his nose. Here's Martin dueling with some hecklers who have noticed his nose. Martin based his screenplay, of course, on Cyrano de Bergerac, but he does the adaptation so well that it doesn't feel like a rewrite. It feels like a new comic fantasy from the ground up.
15 Love.
Daryl Hannah plays the beautiful Roxanne, and this is her best performance since Splash. She plays a nice girl, a really nice girl, who in this scene has somehow locked herself out of her house.
What is it?
Somebody locked out of their house.
Need any help, Chief?
Looks pretty boring. I'll take care of it.
At first, Roxanne is attracted to the fire department's handsome young consultant, but he is too dumb to carry on a conversation, so Martin radios him his dialogue to earphones concealed underneath his ear flaps in the movie's funniest scene.
You are the lioness. Ooh. Alert and sensitive. Alert and sensitive to every misstep.
I see.
Get ready to move a little closer to her. Therefore, I must move silently, moving in towards you. Reach out your hand. My hand out, reaching to car 3. Proceed to the 279.
What?
We're always talking about the shortage of love stories in the movies, and Roxanne is one of the most romantic and good-hearted, whimsical love stories I've seen in a long time. Steve Martin is wonderful in this movie. He's especially good at physical acting. He uses body language to express Cyrano's cheerful, heroic nature, and in this movie, as well as in All of Me a couple of years ago, he proves that nobody is a better or more subtle physical comedian right now than Steve Martin. Daryl Hannah, who's usually cast in weirdo or offbeat roles, is absolutely right as the mainstream middle American object of his fantasies, and this is a funny, charming, original love story that I enjoyed from beginning to end.
I absolutely agree. This was charming. Martin is playing at an effervescent, almost ginger ale level throughout this whole film. It is a beautiful comic masterpiece of his work alone. If there were no one else in the film, if you stripped out every character, he would dance through this movie and it would be a delight. Daryl Hannah has given her first intelligent role. She's equal to it. She's good. I just had a big grin on my face as I watched this whole film.
I have very little to add. This is a great comedy. You think so, I think so.
What do you know? You got one right.
Can't even have an argument. Coming up next, a cute little dog stars in his 4th movie. Yes, Benji's back, and the wilderness has got him.
Movie titles in my time. Sidelong Glances of a Pigeon Kicker is one of my personal favorites, back from 1969, I think. But here's a beauty. Benji the Hunted. You think this was an Edward G. Robinson or maybe today an Arnold Schwarzenegger film rather than the adventures of a cute little dog lost in the wilderness. Benji the Hunted, indeed. Actually, the best parts of the story are when Benji isn't hunted by man nor beast, but when he's left to care for 4 cougar cubs, whose mother is brutally shot and killed, I might add, in the beginning of the picture. My advice, walk in about 10 minutes late, and you'll just see Benji cuddle the cute cougar kitties. Your kids will appreciate it. The rest of the picture is a chase film, mostly, with Benji on the run first from a wolf. There's Benji battling a bear, and then there's Benji battling a cougar. The cougar, trying to protect its own cub, basically sees Benji as lunch. I wish there had been more, aren't they cute shots like this one of the kitties crossing a creek. After a while, with Benji being chased and attacked so often, saving the cub so often, Benji the dog and Benji the movie, Benji the Hunted, exhausted me. This is the first time I wanted to tell a dog to slow down and stop to smell the flowers. I can't recommend Benji the Hunted.
Well, there is a little suspense in the movie. Like, for example, will Benji be able to protect those cougar cubs until they get big enough to eat him? But I don't know, Gene. Your review is the typical sort of blasé, sophisticated, cynical review.
I'll take the word sophisticated.
I would expect from an adult. This movie is not for adults. This movie is for children. I can remember what it was like to be 6 years old, 8 years old, to see a movie that's 90 minutes long, only has about 100 words of dialogue. It's about a dog in the wilderness, beautiful photography, those cute little cougar cubs, which you mentioned, the magnificence of the other animals, the adventures, the little kittens crossing the stream, the very shot you pointed out. This movie is a movie that kids would really enjoy.
You know what they should see? Roger, my rebuttal of this film is you're wrapping yourself in the flag of children, and I'm saying go see the Black Stallion instead. There's a film with little dialogue, so much better.
I'm not wrapping myself in the flag of children. You're wrapping yourself in the flag of the sophisticated film critic who's seen it all.
No, boredom with Benji running.
I don't think that any child is going to be bored by this movie, and indeed, I found the nature photography to be very interesting myself.
I recommend film for kids that are good. The Black Stallion is a great film. This is garbage.
I recommend films for kids that are bad, but I'll tell you what, whether it's good or bad, I think kids will really enjoy it. Coming up next on our video segment, a look at two classic Stanley Kubrick war movies, Paths of Glory and Dr. Strangelove.
Chris is in charge.
The parents have left.
Chris can handle it.
And the adventure is about to begin.
Hey, I like danger.
You should try babysitting.
You could say they were having a bad night if they weren't having such a good time.
He must be a great babysitter.
Adventures in Babysitting, rated PG-13. Starts Wednesday, July 1st at a theater near you. Check newspapers.
It's time for our regular weekly video segment, and this week we're going to take another look at two great war movies by Stanley Kubrick, whose Full Metal Jacket we reviewed earlier in the program. And my choice is Dr. Strangelove, the 1963 film that remains one of the benchmarks of modern movie history, a film so outrageous in its portrayal of nuclear war that even today it's quoted and referred to as an example of a whole mindset. Here's Sterling Hayden as the paranoid General Jack D. Ripper.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
And who could ever forget the movie's shocking climax with bomber pilot Slim Pickens actually riding an H-bomb down to its target? I looked at the Laserdisc version of Dr. Strangelove the other night, and I was struck all over again by how daring and how modern this movie is. I think you could make a good cause that Strangelove is one of the few movies that really has been influential in our times by its portrayal of a Cold War mindset that is so rigid and so bureaucratic that it has no interest in the human realities of war.
Roger, I think I've often called it my favorite film of all time. It's the one I love to see as much as any film ever made, and I think that just to comment on what we're talking about in Full Metal Jacket, I think when you start to compare it against that greatness, I think that's influencing you. I think Full Metal Jacket is very strong.
In other words, you don't think it's as good as Dr. Strangelove?
I think very few, probably no films
are, right.
Well, here's one that's close. My Stanley Kubrick film on video is his superb 1957 anti-war masterpiece, Paths of Glory, starring Kirk Douglas, in the story of French soldiers in World War I sent on a suicide mission just so some general might get an extra star. The troops' position is hopeless as Douglas leads them into massive German artillery fire. Later, after the troops have rebelled and are court-martialed for doing it and are scheduled to be executed, Kirk Douglas is stunned at their fate.
Well, you see, Colonel, troops are like children. Just as a child wants his father to be firm, troops crave discipline.
I see.
And one way to maintain discipline is to shoot a man now and then.
May I ask, do you sincerely believe all the things you've just said?
That was Adolphe Menjou as the general. Paths of Glory is a near-perfect film, masterfully directed and quite shocking for its time, I think, in the rawness of its language. It's 30 years old. It seems so fresh, so very fresh when you see it now. In the wild contradictions expressed by its officers, it's a great companion piece to see along with Full Metal Jacket and Dr. Strangelove. When it comes to films about war and warriors, Stanley Kubrick is a master.
He knows what he's doing. But you know, the real buried subject here is our disagreement about Full Metal Jacket, and I would be very surprised if you like that movie in 30 years as much as you like this one today. I don't think it's going to hold up that well. It's not one of his great films.
In the world of films as made today, Full Metal Jacket is a film to recommend. Full Metal Jacket is a very, very fine film.
My opinion is the Full Metal Jacket is not Kubrick at the top of his form, which we've just seen here.
Roger, it is not as good as those two films, which are among the greatest films ever made. But for you on this show to give thumbs down to Full Metal Jacket, I think is a gross mistake. I think it is a film worth seeing.
I think I'm trying to put the movie in a context, and I'm trying to tell people that it is not as good.
And this is the show where you give Benji the Hunted a positive review and not Kubrick's
Now, Gene,
film.
that's totally unfair because you realize that these reviews are relative. Benji the Hunted is not 1/3 the film, 1/10 the film that the Kubrick film is, but you know that the same thing happens, that you review films within context. So it's not fair for you to compare those two reviews. And you know it, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
No, I'm not.
Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. We disagreed, as we just said, on Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Gene thinks it's brilliant. I thought it had flashes of brilliance, but was an overall disappointment. Another disagreement on Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. Gene laughed more than I did. 1 thumb up, 1 thumb down. 2 thumbs up, though, for Steve Martin's Roxanne, a charming comedy. And finally, a disagreement on Benji the Hunted. Gene didn't even like the title. I thought it was ideal for its target audience.
Full Metal Jacket. Roger, again, I don't think you would really tell people to miss it, and you even almost want people to see and have a good time at Spaceballs. Consider your thumb. Look at your thumb over the weekend. That's it for this week. Next time we'll be back for reviews of 4 new movies, including Dan Aykroyd starring as the nephew of Detective Joe Friday in a comic remake of the TV crime series Dragnet. And we'll review Adventures in Babysitting, a teenage comedy about one girl's awful night as a babysitter. And until then, Roger's looking at his thumb, and the balcony is closed.
You ought to be looking at your thumb right there.
Nestle Crunch. It's creamy milk chocolate and crispy crunchies. Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's why you'll love Nestle Crunch. Olive oil from Spain makes chicken, seafood, and vegetables taste fantastic and has no cholesterol. What a healthy idea. Olive oil from Spain. Baco's adds that delicious bacony crunch to all your salads. Baco's. New Halsa hairspray and styling mousse. There's one just for your hair color to let your natural highlights shine through.